can't be said enough that tyranny comes from fear. Okay, we are both on both sides of the aisle, both Republicans and Democrats, susceptible to falling into authoritarianism, falling into tyrannical behavior, and supporting it wholeheartedly and shouting down those who oppose it. I want to bring up a quick this little tweet that I found. This is actually on my Facebook feed, but it's a tweet. It's the best take on the No Kings rally. The No Kings people had no issue dictating who was essential, dictating who you visited, dictating that the elderly die alone, dictating that you inject into your, or what you inject into your body. Now, obviously, this is a callback to 2020 and what was going on at that time. And yes, the left was incredibly authoritarian, and they will to this day defend that authoritarianism through the fear that they had of what was going on at the time. I always go back to 9/11 and I say the Republicans became very authoritarian there because of their fear of what was going on at the time. And they would shout down and question the patriotism of anybody who questioned them. It's all about the right fear trigger. That's all it is. Nobody opposes tyranny. Nobody opposes authoritarianism. We're just waiting for the right fear trigger to push our authoritarian button. And then, we'll back the guy who we don't care. We don't care about due process. We don't care about militarizing the police. We don't care about deploying the military in the, into a U.S. city. If it's in defense of putting away something that we fear, the right, for some reason, because of the media that they consume, didn't have a lot of fear in 2020. They weren't afraid of the pandemic. And so the totalitarian steps that were being taken to protect people from the pandemic were viewed as tyrannical and authoritarian. Whereas if you were on the other side of it and you weren't afraid, you were evil and you didn't care about harming other people. And yes, it's okay to be authoritarian because I'm afraid of this thing. In 2001, after 9/11, the same conversations were happening. You're not a patriot. You're going to let the terrorists win, blah, 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 blah. All the same kind of rhetoric about what was happening at the time and how we should surrender our rights to privacy and be okay with constant surveillance. And we've grew this massive surveillance and police state around this horrific attack, okay, that took place. And that is still in place today. I had a conversation with someone the other day and I explained it pretty clearly how this happens. Okay. The Republicans will build the state. They'll build the surveillance state. They're going to be the ones who increase the government's ability to survey you, to arrest you. They're going to be the ones who build that structure. And then the Democrats are going to be the ones who cause the chaos to put that power into play. That's how I see this. How I see this whole thing shaking out. You're going to have Democrat governors. You saw in 2020, Democrat governors, Democrat mayors, Democrats. I don't know, in general, just refusing, standing in front of burning buildings, saying it's a mostly peaceful protest. Right? It's like they desire the chaos that triggers the militant response. And then depending on what side of the aisle you're on, you're either going to condemn the chaos that's being created or you're going to condemn the militant response. But it further divides the two camps up so that there's no middle ground. There's no place for us to go and actually have a conversation about it. And that's the problem. That's where there's a lot of different places that the divisiveness in this country is coming from. That is a major part of it. There's this chaos creation and this growth of the military, police, and surveillance state. We should oppose both of those things. We should oppose both of those things. We should oppose any violence, any destruction of private property or public property. You can tell I'm a libertarian. Private property comes first. We should be opposed to that. We should be opposed to chaos. We have an immigration policy in this country. We should enforce it. Our borders should be secure. We should fix our immigration policy so it's easier for people to immigrate, but we shouldn't cause chaos by simply disregarding our immigration laws. Because when you cause that chaos, when that happens, you're going to have a reaction on the other end in response to that. But every action creates an equal and opposite reaction, right? So there's this elevation of chaos and authoritarianism, right? Chaos and the chaos response, right? That's taking place in our country, and there's also the corruption part of it, right? Your guy did this terrible thing. Oh yeah, well your guy did this terrible thing. Well, your guy did this terrible thing, and we're elevating this. It's a race to the bottom between the two, and that's another part of this divisiveness where he's a bad guy. That doesn't make him a good guy. He did a bad thing. That doesn't mean we have to forgive the bad thing that this guy did. Both sides are hypocritical because both sides don't want to hold their own people accountable because they're afraid, rightly so, that the other side isn't going to hold their guy accountable. So there's this constant forgiving of what is obvious corruption. And so we just keep, it's a race to the bottom. And you could see, if you go back 50 years and watch presidential debates, cycle after cycle, every 4 years, you can see the slow, steady decline of good content, of good substantive conversations between presidential candidates, between their vice presidential candidates, of level-headed, relatively unbiased news reports. And you can see this, we've devolved into this two-camp system, this two-party system where we're so loyal to each other's teams or to our own teams that we can't objectively view what's going on right in front of us. And that makes us incredibly easy to control. So yeah, we should be afraid of authoritarianism. We should be afraid of chaos. We should be afraid of it all. But turn off social media, man. I don't know what to say other than this isn't going to get better until we stop caring about the letter in front of a politician's name and go back to the content of their character, who they are. And one of the two sides is going to have to step forward first. One of the two sides is going to have to say, my guy did this terrible thing, and therefore I cannot, in good conscience, support him, and largely reject a terrible candidate or a terrible person, or have a Republican House, right, censure or impeach a Republican president and like, look, this guy's terrible and here's what he's doing that's against the law and we're going to use the impeachment process. Doesn't matter that he's a Republican, we're going to do this. Or the Democrats do it. Somebody's got to stand up to the bad guys within their own party. Or some group of voters in some city has to say, I'm not reelecting this person who I know is an inside trader and is using their position in Congress to make themselves rich because they know what's coming. We can't just keep, I feel like that scene in Breaking Bad where he's like, he can't keep getting away with it. We're all complaining about the same things, but here we go. We show up to the ballot box every couple of years and we vote for the exact same goddamn people and we expect something different to happen. And I don't understand how hard it is to break through that, or why it's so hard to break through that and go, I'm just not voting for this guy. I know he's a bad guy. I know the other guy's a bad guy and he might win because I'm not voting for this bad guy, but God dang it, I'm not going to vote for somebody I don't believe in. I'm not putting my name, my vote, my voice behind somebody I don't believe in. And we don't even have the courage to do that in this country anymore. So we keep showing up, voting for the same criminals, the same corrupt politicians over and over. And then we are just astounded by the fact that we can't get along. Nothing gets done. The government is ineffectual. We've elected Donald Trump. We're going to spend just as much money. We're going to rack up massive deficits. We're going to continue to destroy the currency. We're going to continue to wipe out the middle class through inflation. And we're all scratching our heads like we can't figure out. I can't believe, I don't understand. How could this possibly be happening? My guy won. And then we're so deep in denial. We have such strong Stockholm syndrome that some people it's happening to them and they still can't see it, that it's happening. I don't know. Consider this just a midday rant. And if you want to get this emotional about it, get yourself 2 YouTube channels and just watch right-wing content and like right-wing content on one channel, and get yourself on your second channel, watch nothing but liberal content and like liberal content, and then you'll see the two completely different worlds that we are living in. You see how extremism is creeping into our society because we are just absolutely living in completely different worlds, and the algorithms are just feeding us this constant diet of hate and anger and fear. And I don't know where we go from here, but man, thank you. Rant over.